Welcome to Sonny's, the car wash factory. In conjunction with this training video, please reference each component's owner's manual, available at sonnysdirect.com, before performing any installation, repair, or maintenance procedure. Each manual details specific requirements and settings necessary for the safe operation and maintenance of your car wash equipment.
Hey, we're going to talk about some support equipment. We're in the back room. We're looking at our prep gun station. Every car wash should have a prep gun station, whether they're going to prep cars or just clean their tunnels. It's important to make sure that your hoses don't reach into your equipment. And if you're going to clean the equipment, they only bring hoses in the tunnel when the car wash is off and shut down, and you do it after hours or on a rainy day and there's no more car washing allowed. But right now we're in the back room. We're going to talk about the pump station. This one here is our Aramitsu 510. It's our direct drive unit. It's a 5.5 horsepower direct drive piston pump. It'll deliver 8 gallons a minute at 1,000 PSI. It allows us to run 2 guns out there and prep all day if you want to, or on a tunnel cleaning day, you can put 2 guys in there with pressure washers, and they can pressure wash from both ends of the building and get the work done twice as fast. Again, it's a really nice piece of equipment to have. This one here has got plumbing in it, so they've got some quick connect lines at both ends of the building. They can move their hoses around, do their cleaning. They also have some guns set up with real short hoses just to do prepping at the front of the building for the bug season. It's a real nice unit. We fill it with a hydrominder, a 530 hydrominder. We put a plug in it right now because they don't want any chemical in there. They've got some bug chemical in a hand sprayer. So we put a plug in there so it works properly. When you look inside the tank, this suction hose goes into a 3-inch pipe. That 3-inch pipe is the same place we bring the return water from the regulator back up into it. And we do that so that we don't create any turbulence on the suction side, on the inlet of the pump. All that water goes into that 3-inch little pipe. You'll be able to see that, and it cascades over. Some people don't know why it's there or what it's for, but when you look in here and see how the hose is set in there with the fitting at a little angle, that's exactly why. I've taken the lid off so we can see that. You can take a look at it in a minute with the camera. On the bottom side here, we've got our high pressure pump. We've got our motor. It's direct drive. We've got a little oil plug on the top here that we can pull off to check our fluid level. And again, this pump here is set up with 530 Mobil 1 oil. Okay, we use a synthetic Mobil 1 on all these pumps, makes them last a long time. We've got an unloader on this side here with a pressure gauge. The water pressure is coming out of the pump into the unloader. We've got our bypass here going back to tank. And we've got our pressure here going out to our guns. If we want to set our pressure or adjust it, we've got a lock nut and a jam nut here that allows us to bring our pressure up and down. This gun will run this pump will run 2 guns at 1,000 PSI at 4 gallons a minute. We set them out with a 2507 nozzle, which is 3.5 gallons a minute at 1,000. So we have a little bit of room to wear. We never want to run the pump at its max. If the pressure drops, more than likely the nozzles are worn out, we should replace the nozzles. Don't turn the gauge up unless you're doing a new pressure regulator or you're doing some repairs to it or you're changing something. Leave that thing set alone and always go back and set make sure your tips are clean, they're not worn out. If the pressure goes down, change your tip and bring it back to life. I'll get some wrenches and show you how to do this here in a minute. We'll turn the pump on, we'll run the guns, we'll see how it drops to 0 when everything's working properly. So it doesn't have any load on it, it just bypasses all the fluid. When they use one gun or the other, it'll run up to 1,000 PSI. If it's running at a higher pressure, then it's probably time to change your regulator. But it should drop to 0 when it's not running. Why don't we turn it on right now, and we'll see how she performs, and then we'll show how to make some adjustments. So we're going to adjust that pressure. When we did that, we actually held on to our jam nut, put our wrench out here. We turned our control nut in about 1.5 turns, and we took our pressure from 650 up to 800 PSI, and then we tightened up our jam nut all the way up to our adjusting nut and locked it in place. And that'll keep that at 800 PSI until we want to make an adjustment or until we have to do a repair or a service. Fill hose going into the 3-inch pipe. So the water comes over and cascades. Our suction line's down here. We don't want to make any turbulence and cause any cavitation in the pump. Float valves here, we can adjust it, lower the water level, and that's about as high as we can get the water level in there now. On hydrominder maintenance, okay, we've got a lot of hydrominders filling up our flow jet pump stations and even our pressure gun tank. A couple things that can go bad on them. First one would be our backflow preventer, and there is a way to repair that, and there is a kit for it. We turn our water pressure off, relieve the pressure in the regulator, and we can unscrew this unit here. They sometimes will unscrew as easy as this. If not, you take off the 2 top screws and you got to put a wrench on there and take that off. There is then a little diaphragm with an O-ring in here, and it's very simple. If this diaphragm is cracked or compromised, it may allow siphoning to happen, and we don't want that. So we want to make sure this is in good shape, and this one is. We'll set it back in place. We'll drop our top unit back on, screw it back in, and we know that this one here was working okay when we started, and we're just inspecting that for demonstration purposes. We'll turn it on again and make sure she runs okay. She's stopping. She's not giving us any problems. The next one is the diaphragm valve under here. And this one here can affect chemical mixing. If we have a leak at the diaphragm, we'll sometimes get uneven pressure. We won't be able to create a good venturi. So we want to take off that screw. We want to maintain that and keep it in place so it doesn't fall apart. Down here we have our 2 wire rings that hold our magnet in place. When we take this off, you end up with 3 parts. You have a magnet, spring, and a cover. We don't want to lose those, so we'll put those together, pass them off to be held. Then we've got 3 screws down here on this side that are holding our stem in with our plunger and our diaphragm. With the water off, we're going to undo these 3 screws. So we're taking out our 3 screws. And this is the biggest, trickiest part of this here is to pivot this so you can catch this as far over as you can. There's only a couple of spots that's going to allow you to actually remove this. And there you go. It's a little bit of a turn to the left. I got my diaphragm, my plunger, my spring went to the bottom. I'm going to capture that again. In the kits, they always give you a new diaphragm, spring, and plunger. The easy way out is to try to just change the plunger and get it back under that diaphragm. But a lot of times they make improvements to these parts, so you want to replace what they give you. We're going to actually put this one back together just the way it was because it is brand new and it's fine. So we're going to reassemble it with our spring, our plunger, and our diaphragm. And again, you see the angle that we've turned this at. There's only a couple ways to do it. Don't get frustrated. Don't try to bend things. Just try to carefully manipulate it around until it works and gets in the right place. Then we're going to bring this back around and work to get this diaphragm seated properly, right on top, and then bring this back up here home so we can then add our 3 screws. And now we'll put together our spring assembly. Drop on our spring, put our magnet back in place, reset our wires for our float. And before we put the cap on, we might as well see if we were successful. I'll turn our water on. We got good on, good off, no leaks. I guess every now and then we get lucky. And then we're going to take this one here and drop our cover back on. Line up our top. Get a cover on here. We'll give it one more pull. Readjust our hose back into our 3-inch pipe. And I think everything seems to be working very well. A little bit of bend and alignment, and that all looks fine. So there we are. You've actually looked at the backflow preventer change and the diaphragm change, and all that looks pretty good. And if I can do it, I'm sure you can too. So don't be afraid to get involved, do a little maintenance, order the parts you need, have them ready, and then go in there and attack it. You'll be able to take care of this problem without a hitch.
Thank you for watching this maintenance overview video. Please visit sonnysdirect.com and review the complete owner's manual before attempting any installation, maintenance, or repair of this component. There you'll learn necessary procedures, settings, and other considerations required for the safe operation of your car wash equipment.